So next up, we have 5 innovators. They're going to give us quick 5-minute insights into what they're innovating in their world. We're going to first welcome Quentin Story McAndrew from Coursera. Then we'll have a chat with Lucas from Digit Inc. Then we'll be joined by Timothy Summers, who Sam mentioned earlier, who's working in the digital trust world on a project called Pocket. And then we'll have Kate join us, and she'll talk to us about the Trusted Learner Network and an event that they have coming up in a couple of weeks. And then Nate Otto will come by and say hello and tell us about all the amazing things that are happening over at Concentric Sky. So with that in mind, we will kick it off with Quentin.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and thank you so much for inviting me to participate today. I've been on since the beginning, lurking and listening and watching the chat, and I think all of us get a lot of energy from being together with fellow innovators who are trying to change higher education for the better of everyone. And it's just such a pleasure to be able to spend this amount of time with all of you. My job at Coursera is academic strategist. I am the academic strategist at Coursera. I work with university partners to envision what is possible on the platform. I joined from the University of Colorado Boulder, where I helped build our very stackable degrees, where we really focused on, you might call them micro-credentials, but chunked learning for our students to help them progress through the degree. And my job at Coursera is stackability. So making these modular opportunities for students that provide multiple entry points into learning journeys. And I won't even say degrees, because I think we've all acknowledged here today and all believe that a degree isn't always the right credential for everyone, or maybe it's not the right credential for a learner at that time. But multiple entry points into the learning journey, and most importantly, multiple exit points out. You know, I think about how many students start an undergraduate degree and don't finish, but have no credential to show for it. And I see badging as a great opportunity to serve that inequity and solve that inequity in our society and provide more opportunities for students. I've been so interested, especially the 2 students who joined us who are just so brilliant. It just gives you so much hope for the future. And talking about signaling and validating the micro-credential, and I think it's incumbent on all of us. I think about the Coursera ecosystem and the jungle that it is. So we have courses, we have specializations. I, in fact, have a Credly badge on my LinkedIn because I did a specialization on Coursera. We have university certificates, we have industry certificates, we have non-credit courses, we have for-credit courses, and helping the learner validate that journey and find what's right for them is one of the most important things that we can do after we decide on the credentials for the badges that we're working on. And Tracy Petrillo said something really interesting in chat earlier today. She said, you know, this is about putting the future in the hands of the learner earner. And the reason I get so excited about this is I feel like we're taking a turn to serving the learner. And Noah talked about, we don't want to serve a segment of the learning population. We want to serve all of the population. So what's going on at Coursera these days anyway? You all know about the story about the first MOOCs by Daphne Kohler and Andrew Ng. This is our 10-year anniversary. We're celebrating it at our conference next week. And the biggest development that we've seen in the last year are industry partnership certificates. And Cheryl alluded to the Google certificates in her session earlier today. The Grow with Google certificates, in my mind, have been transformative. And I first encountered them at Boulder when I was working there. And I met with Lisa Gevelber, the founder, and spoke to her a lot about what she's doing. And her goal was to provide a transformative educational experience for learners around the world who can't afford or can't access college, to give them an economically transformative opportunity. What's happened with that is an incredible amount of positive pressure from the Amazons of the world, the IBMs of the world, the Googles of the world, the Microsofts, on higher education to pay attention more and more and more to outcomes. And I'm a humanist. So the conversation that we were just having with Lori about what is the power of humanities, I'm an English major through and through. And I really believe in the power of the ability of the humanities to synthesize education and learning. But in a world where the cost of higher education is increasing and state support is decreasing, we have to really think about the return on investment of that education. And for me, micro-credentials do that. The idea now that we can partner with Google to provide learning outcomes, and now our university partners are coming on board and including this content in their accredited educational programs at the university, is a movement that will better serve our learners forever. So partners like the University of North Texas and the University of London are offering transfer credit to students who have completed certificates from industry partners on the platform. And what Coursera has done, and this is just one example of one, industry partner and how we've approached it, is that we've gotten ACE accreditation recommendations for those certificates to make them more viable in the higher education landscape. I think ultimately the world of badging begins to call into question the value of the credit hour. And the credit hour in and of itself begins to provide a guidepost to the badge. And so it's this really interesting, to me, holistic environment where we're all working on serving our learners. I think that badging also has great potential in equity for admissions processing. So instead of a traditional application for a degree, to be able to demonstrate skills and develop a standardized, I was going to say accredited, I want to be careful about that word, in the admissions process begins to open up opportunity for everyone. So I think this movement is really important. Coursera is going to be creating the content, and then how we all define it and come together to create an ecosystem that is navigable for our learner and for employers is really important. Oh, I went to 6 minutes. I'm so sorry. Also, I just had shoulder surgery, so I decided manipulating the computer one-handed might lead to technological disaster. So I apologize. I didn't do any slides.
You did a great one-handed job. Thank you, Quentin. Excellent. Next up, we have Lucas. Lucas, how's everything going in Digital Inc. world?
Oh, we're great. Thanks for having me. And also, I realized that my last name is impossible to pronounce, so I don't blame anyone for just calling me Lucas. Also, really can't say enough how excited I am to be kind of presenting alongside Quentin, Timothy, Kate, and Nate. I'm familiar with all of your work and I'm a big fan. And then also really happy to see some of my favorite people, Noah and Naomi, and some others on the call. I do have some slides, and host disabled screen sharing. Would you mind turning that on for me? Okay, there we go. Let me know if and when you can see my screen. Okay, great. So I'll be pretty quick. Digit Inc. Most of you probably aren't familiar, but we're a platform for designing, issuing, and managing verifiable credentials on the blockchain. So we're similar to some other platforms out there, except for that we take Web3 very, very seriously. So SSI is really important to us. Being blockchain agnostic is really important to us. Having interoperability and independent verifiability. These are all things that are kind of core to us because we think it's where the whole industry is heading. So to go over some things that I'm sure you already know, the old kind of solution, this is obviously higher ed focused in the graphic, but this applies in general. You know, if you attend a fellowship or a community college course or whatever it is, you usually just get a piece of paper. And if you're anything like me, your piece of paper is still in the tube it came in or the folder it came in, probably in your closet somewhere. My degree is not on my wall because it doesn't differentiate anything about me or my experience where I went to school. And also, there was no kind of ongoing reassurance that what I was doing was what I wanted. There was no kind of incentive for retention. Also, it requires kind of constant verification from other people. They need to go through this big effort to try to get access to the fact that I've graduated. So the new solution, which I'm sure you all are all familiar with, that we're trying to take to the next level, there's no extra verification. It helps you feel like you're accomplishing something as a student over the course of your endeavor, and it differentiates you, which is, for this call, the more important aspect. we have these three stakeholders: the issuer, the recipient, and the verifier, or the hiring manager. And in most cases, what we've seen is that a lot of programs really focus on maybe the graduates, and it really charges up the graduates and the learners, and they feel really good about what they've gotten, but it doesn't translate very well to a verifier experience. Or maybe it would be really great for hiring managers, except for that grads don't really care about it, or the issuers have a hard time issuing it. And I think this is summed up best. We've got a little appendix. I'm not going to go through all the slides. I don't have time. But here's the kind of current model of trust, which is this long, convoluted process that involves a lot of back and forth between these three stakeholders. And where we're going is with a Web3 based and blockchain based verification system where any verifier can check on any claim by a recipient without bothering the school. This is the beauty of LERs and CLRs, of block certs, and the whole thing that we're talking about here. I think I have a few minutes left, so I want to show very quickly what we have done to try to address these issues. First, for the issuer, we want it to be super easy. I'm logged into our app here. It's hopefully really easy to use. Happy to give a longer demo, which is to say like a 15-minute demo to anyone who's interested. But there's no two processes. There's no, you have to learn this and then you have to learn this. We've never had an onboarding that takes longer than 45 minutes. And then credentials. You want to be able to see all the credentials that you've ever issued, drill in and see who's received them, and then go and take a look at them. You can verify them, you can revoke them, whatever else you want. And if you are the recipient, you get something that looks pretty familiar. You get a badge. Maybe it's a part of a badge stack, a traversable badge stack that leads to your big certificate. I'm kind of zoomed in here, so everything looks a little big. You can add it to your LinkedIn because that's the digital wallet of yesterday. You can add it to hopefully your pocket. We'll hear from Timothy in a little bit. And, with one of these, the actual JSON object itself. So we want to support yesterday's technology. LinkedIn is what everyone's on, but we want to support tomorrow's technology with digital wallets as well. And then, of course, this is all well and good, but you've seen it before, where hiring managers have told us, and we interviewed dozens and dozens, close to 100 hiring managers when developing the product, is that all of this is like a report card that's all pass-fail. It just says someone finished something, finished a program. It doesn't say how well they performed, which also is important with retention and exciting learners. So we've added this kind of media showcase. This is a really bare bones one, but we could support embedding variable data on a recipient by recipient basis. So it's a cross between a certificate of completion, in this case, and a portfolio. It shows what they actually accomplished en route to receiving the certificate. And then all of this is verified independently in a super robust, super transparent way. So we're not necessarily saying this is the total answer, but we think this is where it's going. We think that the world is moving towards independent verifiability because learners need it, because they need to transport their learning from platform to platform, and because hiring managers need to know that what they're looking at is true without having to dig super deep into calling people and double checking things and doing background checks. I think that's about my time. So thank you very much. And let me know if you'd like to see more or hear more. I'll be in the Q&A, obviously, and I'm really happy to meet with anyone on this call. Thank you.
And Lucas, feel free to throw a link in the chat if there's anything you want anyone to know there. And we'll kick it over to Timothy. Hello, Timothy.
Good morning. How's everyone doing?
Timothy's going to talk to us a little bit about Pocket. Go for it, Timothy.
Hey, thank you so much. I also have slides, so I'm going to share my screen here. First and foremost, just thank you so much for the time to share. I'm going to breeze through these slides, but I'm happy to share links so that you can go through them at your leisure. As mentioned, my team and I are working on Pocket. Here's a little bit of the intro slides. Like, again, you'll see all of this stuff. A lot of this stuff you guys already know, so I don't really need to sort of dash it out to you. But what we're doing here is we're building a next generation piece of technology, something we're really excited about. We really see this as the learner journey being deeply human, but we wanted to build a piece of technology that could facilitate and assist along that journey, specifically with enabling learners to capture their learner journey and to match their skills with jobs of the future. And so we had this idea of building a pocket where you could essentially put all of your achievements, courses, skills, degrees, and a ton of other things. We really don't want to be prescriptive. Pocket is a digital wallet and portfolio that enables learners to capture the evidence of their learning in any kind of format. We're trying to meet any kind of format where the learner may want to capture it. So with Pocket in hand, learners are able to collect all the evidence that they're learning, to curate those unique profiles representative of that learning, to connect their skills with jobs, to navigate this journey. We're going to show you some real screens in here. I always feel like the proof is in the eating. So there's real screens. You'll see, I'll point them out as well. And there are video in the slides as well, just to sort of show some of the functionality. The key to Pocket really are two pieces. The back end, which is really just a series of servers, but really is important for the issuance and verification of the credentials. And then also we have the digital wallet app itself, which currently runs on Android and iOS. We took a learner-centered approach here, built upon the philosophies of self-sovereign identity, leveraging a number of specifically, what the world is now referring to as Web3 technologies, but distributed ledger technology specifically, and also the use of verifiable credentials in this sort of self-sovereign identity sort of ecosystem. And we found that the way that we've architected it by putting learners at the center, our intent is to provide learners with increased ownership of their data, specifically also helping them better navigate that chasm between work and learning, and also really to sort of provide them with that control to be the masters of their own destiny and their own records. All of our technology is built on open source, open standards. You can go through this at your leisure, and happy to answer any questions that you may have. But we built atop the Hyperledger Indy and Aries stacks. Here's some real screens. We operate a bit like a startup, so the screens and whatnot iterate pretty frequently and pretty quickly. But in essence, when you sign up for your Pocket, you are essentially creating the sort of foundation of all of your verifiable credentials from there. And we're really excited that we've created this QR code process that just makes the ability to ingest your records from institutions just seamless. There's a ton of things that we intend for you to be able to do with Pocket. I mean, with a Pocket full of credentials, right? We're able to represent your coursework from across institutions, the list of your skills, the evidence of your degrees, and other things that you've achieved, certifications, badges, your portfolio of work, and much more. Here are some screens sort of representing the portfolio aspects, badges, skills, and scores, course records, your portfolio of work, sort of digital representation of your certificates, your scores. And specifically as it relates to skills, I mean, this is something that we all know is incredibly important. We've actually built in the technological scaffolding to leverage verifiable credentials, skills as verifiable credentials. And so here you can actually see a screen where we have COM 259, which is a class, information about that course, and then also the skills that the course has been designed to sort of convey for the student. And then we can actually drill down into the specificity of that skill and also any evidence the student may have sort of achieved along the way, representative and in support of that skill. And then, of course, there's one of the things we're really, really keen on is this ability for a learner to see all of their skills in one place, being able to sort of filter through those and being able to really sort of plot a path through to their goals. So Pocket enables learners to do a variety of things, not just understand the progress toward their degree, but we've also built in some of the initial functionality for transfer, credit mobility, transfer and reverse transfer. We've also built in the initial capabilities of a digital ID card. Perhaps a student has attended many universities and now has these records from all of these different places and has ID cards representative of those different institutions. We've started now implementing the feature set to really sort of take all of that into account. And again, learning analytics for the learner, for them to really sort of be able to map out a pathway to success. Recently, and something we're really excited about and excited to share, is that we built prototype integrations with the ASU student information system, as well as support for badges. This was really, really exciting for us. We've put in the capability or the initial capabilities, very, very initial, of being able to see sort of where you are on your learner journey. Again, here's just representation of the fact that we now have support for badges and are extending that support as well. One of the tools that we built really to make this seamless and easy for others to adopt is an administrative console. These screens are from one of our early drafts of it. But the idea of this administrative console is to be able to see the verifiable credentials that you're issuing, being able to sort of have a place where you're managing that ecosystem for your institution or your department or whatever the case may be. We are on track to have a limited alpha version of Pocket for testing at ASU by June 22. This is something we're really, really incredibly excited about. And of course, heads down, doing a lot of work and feeling a little bit under the gun about as well, but it's an exciting time. Along the way, we've been learning from a lot of folks, making partnerships and just really asking, hey, help us make it better. And I extend that to all of you. Help us make it better, please. Really quickly, I wanted to kind of share this. What we did is in that integration with the ASU SIS, we have obfuscated any real student data here. The intent here is just to show that we've actually built that integration. Is something we're really, really excited about, and really just leans itself a lot in the progress of what the application is aiming to do. You can see here that we actually have real course data represented on the right, and it represented in Pocket in the sort of representation of the records here that have been pulled down. I won't go through this video with you, but this is actually, because I don't think I have time, but this is an actual video walking you through soup to nuts of creating a Pocket, all the way through to pulling down your records from ASU, all the way to seeing all of that interaction that I just shared with you in this slide. So I'll pause there and just say thank you so much for the time to share, and appreciate and willing to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Timothy. We're going to go ahead and kick it over to Kate, and we'll take questions at the end. Hi, Kate.
Hi there, folks. How are we doing today? I am extremely excited to be here talking with you about the Trusted Learner Network. Let me just find my other screen here. Okay, I think we're locked in. Hi, I'm Kate Giovacchini. I'm the Managing Director of the Trusted Learner Network. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time with you describing what the Trusted Learner Network is and why we do what we do. The Trusted Learner Network is powered by ASU, and at ASU, we're extremely driven by our charter. We measure ourselves by whom we include and how they succeed. We advance research and discovery of public value, and we assume a fundamental responsibility for the communities we serve. The TLN emerges from all of these. And we've been doing digital credentialing work since about 2017 in these areas. When we approach digital credentialing, there's a lot of positives and a lot of negatives. We're dedicated to sort of unraveling some of the very complicated work that we all need to do to make digital credentials ubiquitous and to realize the value for our learners and for all of the communities that we all serve. So, some of the things that we're committed to addressing are understanding the feasibility and helping people understand if this technology is within reach or if it's without reach. We're committed to equity, right? Who will we leave behind in the digital credential space? And really, what do we lose and what changes as we embrace new paradigms around digital credentials? Finally, we do a lot of discussion around trust and around trusted technologies. But I think we go out into our communities and recognize folks that say, I don't know how to trust this technology. It's fabulous that you say that you can verify a credential without ever going back to the issuer, but I've spent 100 years as an institution going back to the issuer. How am I supposed to trust this new technology? So on the other hand, though, right, we all are recognizing, man, these credentials can be extremely easy to share. They can lower barriers to new opportunities for all different types of learners. They're difficult to lose. Right, and students can retain them forever, right, for the remainder of their lifetime if we do this correctly. We also recognize that we can reduce fraud through cryptography and verifiability, and that there's a huge opportunity to enrich credentials with information that makes them extremely powerful. So the way that the TLN envisions our space in this larger ecosystem is that the Trusted Learner Network will develop an independent, self-governed, and distributed organization that serves as utility by housing records of learning. There's lots of ways to unpeel this egg. I'm trying to move away from a skinning the cat reference. I have cats. One of them is right here with me. There's lots of ways that we're going to have to tackle this challenge, right? This is, people that know me will know this like idea. We're standing by the side of a lake. It's early winter. We're seeing some frost form. We're seeing some ice form around the edges, but we recognize, man, this whole lake has to freeze over before anybody's going to be able to cross it. So the TLN's contributions in this space are the following and will be the following, right? So we approach this from a unique learner model, right? So we recognize that technology is crucial here, right? The technology allows us to create a secure repository of credentials. It allows us to exercise agency by, say, issuing VCs, by empowering learners to use wallets. What we add on top of that and what makes the Trusted Learner Network, I think, unique and extremely powerful in this space is that we recognize that governance is a key piece here, right? Trust is about a series of agreements that we all make with each other to overcome uncertainty. In order to create that trust, we have a lot of structures that have a lot of value that sit with us currently. How do we mold that value into a paradigm that carries us forward? And the way that we answer, how do we do that, is through governance, is through engaging with experts in digital issuance. It's through engaging experts in our learners and building trusted rules. Finally, we also have our Trusted Learner Network community, which I strongly encourage everybody to participate in. You can go to tln.asu.edu and sign up to participate in our events and to engage in a larger conversation that is what we describe as pre-competitive, right? We all need to move forward in this space to make this a reality. We operate with a current governance model that's just a seed that we know is going to grow into a really strong tree, right? So we start off with a governing body that composes credential issuers of different types. We bring together architecture advisors from around the ecosystem to help advise, and we power that with the dev and design firm. Our technical design concept is simple but powerful, right? We start with the digital credential repository, an easy place for issuers to come on board. And then by wrapping that in governance, security, and access layers, we strongly believe we can enable a marketplace that can benefit credential capturing, consent and share. But how about empowering the ecosystem of wallets to help learners really go out and take their credentials and use them effectively? What about a marketplace of applications that are governed by consent? That can help learners find jobs, that can help employers find the right people. All of this could be enabled through this technology. Oh boy, I am really excited for this last part. I've been working on this for months, and I've had the really great pleasure of working with Stephanie and all of the other fabulous Shaping EDU people to talk about the TLN Unconference. I think it's the natural next step. If you're engaged, if you're interested, I would love for you to come and join us May 23rd and 24th in Scottsdale, Arizona. We're going to get together, we're going to engage, and like Shaping EDU, we strongly believe in these sort of non-traditional conference methods to get to really cool stuff. So we'll be running some very interactive workshops where folks can come out of it feeling empowered to do something. We're going to work with Digital Promise. Pocket is going to be there. Shaping EDU is going to have a presence. And then to me, the part that's the coolest is we then spend the rest of the afternoon really just sort of scrumming around topics. And that's where we really can get into the weeds with a really cross-functional dynamic group of people and start actually solving some problems. So this QR code works. I tested it earlier, and if it doesn't, oh, I'm going to write a letter. But take a snap of the QR code, come take a look at our event, and I would really love to see you. Come join us with the TLN, be a part of our community, be a contributor, engage, and we can keep this conversation going and help advance this entire ecosystem. Thanks so much, everybody. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Kate. Yes, please do scan that QR code and sign up. And we're going to kick it over to Nate Otto. Nate, you're one of the hot topics of the day. I'll let you speak to as much as you want to, or if you don't want to, about what's going on with the wonderful world of Concentric Sky. And with that, I'll kick it over to you for 5 minutes.
Great, thank you very much. I was going to talk a little bit about where we go from here over the next 10 years. And let me get to the right screen, and that's my slide. So I'm Nate Otto. I created Badger at Concentric Sky. And so I was the leader of the Badger team at Concentric Sky, building up this system for issuers and learners who use badges. And I've contributed to standards in the space at IMS Global, W3C, and the Open Skills Network. As far as the big news about Badger recently, in the last couple of weeks, Concentric Sky was acquired by Instructure, the maker of the Canvas learning management system. And Badger will take its next steps there as Canvas badges and Canvas credentials. So look for that rebrand in the coming weeks. Instructure is going to invest heavily in continuing great work that we have been engaged in with the upcoming release of a new management system standards version that we've been working on. So I want to talk a little bit about, like where we go next from here, because as I've noted over the last 10 years of badges, the future sometimes is really slow to arrive. But it's also, some change comes like faster than we imagined it was even possible. And so right now I'm taking a moment to consider my next steps in the digital badging ecosystem and really trying to think about where this space will develop if we are to end up with widespread and effective use of digital badges to activate employment opportunities. If we go 10 years ahead into a timeline where we actually do accomplish our goals, what are we actually going to see over that period? And it's worth starting with, where are we now? It's been about 10 years since the Open Badges first version came out of the Mozilla Foundation. And we speakers and attendees of this summit are self-selected as interested parties in this ecosystem. We're the leaders of this movement. We're the vanguard of where it is today. And each of us, over the course of our various job roles and non-formal participation in other communities, have developed hundreds of skills. And I wonder what percentage of the skills that we rely on every day in our work roles are actually recognized today in the form of a digital badge. If we were going to go look for a new position today, would we be able to rely on our badges to do so? And so I wonder, as you think about the badges that you hold, is 0% of your skills recognized today in a badge, or is it 1%? There's a long way to go between where we are today after 10 years of this movement in the next 10 years if we're going to be successful. So I want to take a look at 5 trends from this perspective of what if we are successful, what has to happen in the next 10 years, and what will that look like? First trend, I think large scale issuance. So organizations such as ASU awarding tens of millions of badges to recognize credentials, skills, program completion requirements, and lots of other assessed outcomes. How would that come to pass? We might see, broad evolution of the standards and adoption of, say, the next version of Open Badges 3.0. Heavy automation and integration, I think, is going to play a role here, because in order to get to numbers that really push the needle, we're not going to be able to do it all by manual processes, individual clicking through web forms to award each badge. We need to connect the badges to the systems that know about student learner achievements already. And we may also need to see a proliferation of peer recognition, especially maybe in those hard to formally assess areas, things called a lot of the skills that we see, called soft skills, 21st century skills, transversal, et cetera. These things that we know about our colleagues, how can we actually build good UX, effortless UX processes to encode those into badges? So what use of common skills and competency frameworks? I've done a lot of work at the OSN on the rich skills descriptors concept. I think we're going to see broad reuse of skills in this ecosystem across the divide from issuers to employers, and between many different issuers that want to recognize the same thing. Learners controlling their own data. We saw with Pocket, TLN, and Digit Inc., we saw some early examples of what it looks like for a learner to have a wallet where they can choose what facets of their identity to present to others. The standards that we're building and some flagship partnerships that we need to put together are going to make those real. Automation of badge acceptance at scale. So I talked about automation of issuing, but we need to create the pathways and patterns for badges to be accepted by employers and by others for filling certain requirements, whether those are skills that fit into a job description or transfer credit use cases. We need to be able to start automating those and relying less on the storytelling ability of badges and those individual human brain based processes to understand them. And then I think the last trend that I wanted to highlight was that we're going to see stuff that's really weird if we're successful. We're going to see things that are not what we expected in terms of what badges get awarded and why they're awarded and why they matter in various communities. So right now we see, I mean, really the reality is even if you get 15 jobs in your career, that's not a monthly process where you're jumping to a new job regularly. We need to find those opportunities for badges to be useful on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis as part of mediating your experience in web communities. We'll see connection with the broader Web3 movement and the use of badges to present learner-controlled aspects of identity into all sorts of web services, as well as real-world communities, the cafes and the clubs and other spaces that you participate in. And how will we tell whether we're making adequate progress? I think that something good to watch is that needle. How many of your skills and achievements are recognized for the people who are here on this call, the people who are leading this movement? Are we making adequate progress in recognizing each other for the soft skills that we have? And are we making adequate progress at receiving the badges that allow us to represent broad swaths of our experience using this technology? Looking forward to working with you all to create this vision the next 10 years.